Thank you. Thank you. Welcome all to MacDowell's 2023 Medal Day, a day for celebrating MacDowell artists and, most joyfully, awarding the 63rd Edward MacDowell Medal to Alanis Obomsawin, pioneering filmmaker, singer, performer, and printmaker, the first woman filmmaker to receive the Edward MacDowell Medal. But first, welcome to the Dawn Land. MacDowell's staff and board acknowledge that our residency program takes place in Wabanaki, the Dawn Land, on the traditional homelands of the Western Abenaki people on the Pegentacock River. We recognize the hardships they still endure as a result of the loss of their unceded land. We acknowledge that our New York office is located on the Lenape land, and we lament the devastation of centuries of warfare and colonialism. And we join voices with others in the artist communities committee calling for a necessary illumination of the history of the indigenous peoples of North America and an investment in their future. We further acknowledge the continued presence and sovereignty of indigenous communities and nations today, and we thank our indigenous colleagues and fellows for their goodwill in our ongoing efforts to collaborate in the challenges of decolonizing the arts. Good, thank you. Today's land acknowledgement resonates with our very pleasant task at hand because we're recognizing a foundational artist who is actually Abenaki from what is now New Hampshire. In her work and in her person, Alanis Obomsawin powerfully gives lie to the myth of Indigenous erasure. With an oeuvre extending beyond her distinguished filmmaking, she perfectly embodies MacDowell's commitment to artists of all disciplines. Today's land acknowledgement also resonates powerfully in this climate of political disavowal, replete with attempts to suppress the unflattering aspects of North American history: genocide, slavery, racial discrimination. While continuing the broad tradition of arts and artists at MacDowell, the work we honor today speaks eloquently, beautifully of histories we all need to face. Artists treasure the sense of MacDowell as a physical place of trees and space and darkness. And in this summer of ominous weather extremes, MacDowell's woods offer a peace that fosters our art. I speak from experience when I tell you this place is special, a creative home away from home. I have been in residence here 2 additional times since my first residency in 2016. And each time I have seen how MacDowell's freedom to create offers a haven to a variety of artists at all stages of their careers, from emerging to esteemed. We want all artists of all heritages and all identities to feel supported in their persons and in their work, to feel free to speak about their work at every stage of completion. MacDowell fosters exchanges over breakfasts and dinners, and during the day promotes uninterrupted concentration on one's work with the delivery of MacDowell's famous picnic basket lunches. For many decades of memories, these basket lunches would come flooding back when the legendary Fellows Services Coordinator Blake Tewksbury greeted returning fellows with "Welcome home." Blake, are you here today? Thank you for letting us recognize you. Ask any of the fellows here today about the value of unplanned exchange, and they will tell you of astonishing solutions springing from engagement with people working in disparate fields. Fellows, current and past, let us see you. The annual Edward MacDowell Medal that we award today rotates across artist disciplines to honor one distinguished artist per year. Last year, we recognized Sonia Sanchez. In 2002, good. Last year, we recognized the poet Sonia Sanchez. In 2021, we recognized the composer Rosanne Cash. In 2019, we recognized visual artist Charles Gaines. And in 2018, the comic artist Art Spiegelman. Now, here's a test for you. No award was given in the COVID year of 2020. This year, we honor Alanis Obomsawin, one of North America's most prolific and insightful filmmakers. Alanis Obomsawin was chosen by a jury of her filmmaking peers. As chair of the MacDowell Board and with guidance from former MacDowell Executive Director Philip Himberg, I asked Tabitha Jackson, former director of the Sundance Film Festival, to chair the Filmmaker Selection Panel. Joining her on the panel were Bird Runningwater, who guides the Sundance Institute's investment in Native American and Indigenous filmmakers, MacDowell Fellows and filmmakers Natalia Almada, Rodney Evans, Soo-Young Kim, MacDowell Fellow and board member Julia Samalnoff, and board member Josh Siegel, film curator at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. And if any of you are here with us today, may we recognize you? Thank you. Now I turn the microphone over to Christine Fisher, longtime pillar of the MacDowell Board and the new MacDowell Board president. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nell, and hello, everyone. I am overjoyed to be here with all of you at my first Medal Day as board president. From the moment I first learned of MacDowell, I was blown away by its unwavering dedication to artists, and it is the purity of that commitment that has led me to this stage today. Because MacDowell champions artists and their creative work, I have become a champion of MacDowell. Simply put, I am here on the stage today because I believe that artists help us make meaning and sense of the world that we live in. We need artists, and they need us. Marion and Edward MacDowell knew this when they pioneered the idea of making a place for artists to work in a nurturing and inspiring environment, free from the distractions of everyday life, and in the community of other artists. In the 116 years since the Peterborough idea as it was once known, was conceived, almost 9,000 artists have been awarded fellowships to MacDowell. And today, the need for these residencies is more urgent than ever. The numbers say it all. In our most recent round of applications, we received more than 2,000 petitions for just 150 fellowships, the second largest pool in our history. Like each cohort of fellows who come to MacDowell, these artists represent a tremendous cross-section of background and talent, working as writers, composers, architects, playwrights, visual and interdisciplinary artists, photographers, and filmmakers. These individuals will travel from near and far, including 7 different countries and 30 different states. This group of fellows range in the age from 21 to 72. 70% of them are first-time fellows. Encouraged to apply, as to quote our Madam Chairwoman, we continue to work to eliminate financial, geographical, cultural, and accessibility barriers to participation. 60% self-identify as artists of color, and 100% of them will add to the richness of experience that artists repeatedly tell us so uniquely characterizes MacDowell. To realize the promise of MacDowell, Marion devoted her entire life to raising money to support and sustain the residency. Those of us who share in Marion's passionate commitment to the value of the creative arts follow in her footsteps to keep the idea alive. Donations to MacDowell, large and small, make it possible for art to be made by great talents. MacDowell doesn't sell books or concert tickets or charge admission or profit from the work made here in any way. We rely solely on donations and grants so that the artwork eventually ends up on stages, bookshelves, on the movie screens, and on albums, and hanging in galleries and museums can be made in the first place. It's so simple and so pure. In our midst today, we have many to thank who do indeed follow in Marion's esteemed footsteps, and all of whom are listed in your program. But I especially wanted to thank our lead sponsors, Putnam Foundation and the F.L. Putnam Investment Management Company. And advocates, Cambridge Trust of New England, Welch and Forbes, Rivermead, and New Hampshire Humanities. I also wanted to give a special thank you to our top individual supporters of this day, Eleanor Briggs, Bob and Sylvia Larson, Arthur Clark, and Susan Sloan. As I said earlier, we need artists and they need us. Thanks to each of you on behalf of the artists for your support. Perhaps most of all, I want to thank our neighbors in Peterborough and every single person who is here with us today. Your presence is a testament to the transformative and unifying power of art. We are so honored to be part of your community and so grateful for your unwavering support. And now, I'd like to introduce you to another new face on the stage this year. I am very proud to say that I was on the board search committee that chose this woman to lead us in the next amazing chapter at MacDowell. Please help me welcome our new executive director, Chiwoniso Katano.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you to all of you who have made your way here. Warm welcome to Alanis Obomsawin and our other special guest, Jessie Wente. We're honored to have you here. MacDowell is a place that the writer Vu Tran calls a place of serene magic. Serene, yes. Magical? Well, ask the fellows that you meet today. Magic is conjured here in so many ways. I should share that my parents are here today. They flew 10,000 miles from their home in Harare, Zimbabwe. There are two reasons why one might make that long journey. One, to visit MacDowell. Two, and let's be real, to visit their grandchildren. It is a distinct privilege and an honor to be welcomed into this community. We know of MacDowell's storied past, the nearly 9,000 fellows, 116-year history. We know that our fellows have won all the accolades, the Guggenheims, the MacArthurs, 101 Pulitzers as of this past May. They've won Academy Awards, even Grammys. But what do the next 100 years look like for MacDowell? That may be impossible to foretell, but there are things that we can do to ensure that we as an organization and a community of art makers and art lovers remain on course. As organizations and communities do not exist in a vacuum, they cannot navigate successfully without adjusting to the changes that lately seem to come from all points of the compass. The wider tides of a shifting culture have affected us all in innumerable ways these last few years. How will MacDowell sustain and amplify its venerable legacy in an age of such tremendous transformation? Clear-eyed navigation. I take as my charge keeping MacDowell focused with unwavering resolve on its true north, providing a growing community of artists with the freedom to create, but to do so in a way that honors our legacy, and also with arms, eyes, hearts, open to a future of limitless possibility. A few weeks ago, I joined our artists in residence for dinner, and I was lucky enough to sit next to a young writer from Cape Town, South Africa. We had a lovely conversation, and afterwards, in reflecting on it, I was wondering if 116 years ago, our founder, Marion MacDowell, would have envisioned us two women from Southern Africa, one an artist, one a passionate advocate for the arts, both far from home, but very much at home in this place that she built in Bucolic, New Hampshire. And I like to think that the answer is a resounding yes, that this is exactly what she envisioned. The future is always a promise, and in the case of MacDowell, my vision for our future is that we all dream the biggest dream for this community of artists, that we not only exist 100, 200 years from now, but that tens of thousands more artists have come through our doors, and that those thousands contain multitudes and multiplicities representing the beauty and the bounty of artistic convergence, creating art that is vital, thriving, and enduring. While the world recalibrates, MacDowell, our fellows, and their art endures. Thank you. And now I would like to introduce you to the beating heart of MacDowell, a man who has made MacDowell his life's work, my colleague and my friend, resident director David Macy.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you, Chi. This is one of those moments to savor, here today with you and with Christine, with Nell, here to celebrate MacDowell and to honor Alanis. When Medal Day's logistics unfold without you even noticing them, that is thanks to MacDowell's small but mighty staff. I'd like to mention events manager Brett Solomon, who's in the house, and Dan Milbauer, who is also is based here in Peterborough. And the rest of my colleagues are working beyond the perimeter of the tent, so you'll need to be emphatic if you want them to hear you in saying thank you. That's good. I couldn't have said it better myself. Well, I'm just delighted to see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of new faces. The veterans in the crowd, I know, will have already plotted a strategic course through the open studios after lunch today. Some of you with the sharpest eyes might have noticed that in place of Kirby's studio, Van Zorn Studio has suddenly appeared. And it was just last evening that we renamed that studio in honor of past chairman of MacDowell's board of directors, 14-time fellow and brilliantly genre-defying writer, Michael Chabon. And happily, Michael is in the house today, together with writer and essayist and multi-time fellow Ayelet Waldman. They have made the long journey to be with us today. And when I see Michael under a big tent on a hot summer day, I start to wax nostalgic. There are past metal days with Rollins, Sondheim, Morrison, and more. And now what I have written down here, I'm going to have to ad-lib because I said, leaning in his linen-clad elbow on this very lectern, but this is a different lectern. Michael's words took us places we never thought we would go. He was provocative and irreverent. He saw that the MacDowell portion of this program could sometimes become, how do you say, a little self-congratulatory. So he once mocked this august organization for seeming, and I quote, to have been founded on the idea that writers and artists are a bunch of prima donna, hothouse flowers, so gifted at finding excuses not to work that they actually need to be removed from the general population and isolated under the watchful gaze of benevolent minders. And I just thought, God, I wish I'd written that. So during Michael's chairmanship, charitable gifts to MacDowell topped $36 million. 12 of that went into permanently restricted funds for the future. Michael and Ayelet worked as a team to help raise MacDowell's national profile. And seeing Michael last night, I realized that during the most intense period of his writing career, he was prioritizing MacDowell, giving his time to support artists he would almost surely never meet. So raising operating funds for an organization fits with the metaphor of the Renaissance masons and craftsmen who would labor for decades and never see the finished cathedral. And MacDowell, in a similar sense, will never be complete because we're not building a grand structure, we're building a community. And that includes artists, staff, and board, and everyone who's here under the tent today. Whether you've come here because you read about MacDowell in an author's acknowledgement, or if you came to meet a medalist who changed the way you view the world, it doesn't matter how you got here. It doesn't matter how you found us. What matters is that you're here, and MacDowell keeps expanding. During Michael's last year as board chair, Ayelet led a campaign to raise funds in his honor, and since then, there's been an annual Writers' Fellowship that will go on in perpetuity, and we were inspired last night to name Van Zorn Studio. And I bet you thought I had forgotten all about Van Zorn Studio, so, given our time constraints, I'll share only that August Van Zorn first appeared in 1995 in the opening sentence of Wonder Boys. Now pay close attention, there will be a quiz after lunch. The novel's narrator, Grady Tripp, opens the book with praise for a crusty English professor who had, under the pen name Van Zorn, published countless tales of horror in the mode of Edgar Allan Poe and H.P. Lovecraft. In subsequent years, Michael extended the ruse to levels never achieved by even the FBI's most advanced efforts at the Witness Protection Program. In '97, A Tale of Horror by August Van Zorn, In the Black Mill, was published in a major magazine, and not long after, a Van Zorn scholar posted a complete Van Zorn bibliography on an obscure website. It was that Van Zorn scholar by the name of Leon Heimbach, who also declared that August Van Zorn was, and I quote, "without question, the greatest unknown horror writer of the 20th century." So with today being Van Zorn Studios' public debut, and everybody now under the tent now in on the secret, you're all sworn in as members of the MacDowell community. So on behalf of all of the future fellows, and if you would stand for one more second, Michael and Ayelet. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, the time has come for the main event, and it is my honor to introduce Jesse Wente to present this year's Edward MacDowell Medal in the Arts. Jesse is a husband and a father, an award-winning writer and critic. His acclaimed first publication, Unreconciled, is both a memoir and a polemic, teasing out the challenges and possibilities for reconciliation between First Nations and Canada. An off-reserve member of the Serpent River First Nation, Jesse was on the airwaves for more than 2 decades as a film and popular culture critic on CBC Radio's Metro Morning. In 2018, Jesse was named founding director of the Indigenous Screen Office, and shortly after, appointed chairman of the Canada Council for the Arts. Please join me in a warm MacDowell welcome for Mr. Jesse Wente.
Ani bonjour. Ganabajing Anishinabek, Anjibara, Besho Huron, Zagigan, Makwa Dodem, Jesse Wente, Indigenous Cause. So in English, I just introduced myself. My name is Jesse Wente, as you heard. I'm Anishinaabe from Ganabajing Anishinabek on the north shore of Lake Huron, and my clan is Bear Clan, as you might be able to tell. It is my great honor and privilege to be here with you today to present this award to Alanis Obomsawin. I can think of no one more deserving than Alanis. I first met Alanis 30 years ago at a screening of her landmark documentary, Ganasatake, 270 Years of Resistance. But like many, I first encountered her nearly a decade before. It was when I was just about 10 years old that I saw my first Alanis Obomsawin film, Incident at Restigouche, which was broadcast on TV in Canada. Never before had I seen an Indigenous woman who looked a lot like my mom on TV, let alone challenging a government official over First Nations rights. That moment changed my perception of cinema, its potential, and my potential place within it. Alanis has inspired countless people in the exact same way. Hers was a voice, a face that was often singular in the media in Canada. And for so many of us, she was a beacon of what could be done. That there is so much more Indigenous media today, all around the world, that we now have organizations and institutions to support our filmmaking and storytelling, so much of that is because of Alanis and the inspiration she provides. Her work is no less impactful. Across more than 50 years and 56 films, Alanis has held a mirror up to Canada and colonialism. She's provided the microphone for many to use their voices to speak truth to power. Her cinema is the cinema of listening and giving voice. It's a decolonial approach that existed before such notions were the topic of dissertations, university courses, or training seminars. I don't even think anyone knew what the word decolonization was when Alanis started her work. Her cinema is of the people in a way that most documentaries never even attempt to be. That too has provided a path for an Indigenous cinema ethic that persists, one that resists extractionist methodologies and centers the subject at all times. It is community-based filmmaking ethic embodied by one individual and her work. And just to give you the briefest Indigenous cinema history lesson, Indigenous cinema, unlike every other national cinema, was founded by women. Yeah. Two women, to be precise, from Eritrea, Mara Tamita, who a few years ago joined her ancestors, and Alanis, who joins us here today. It's a career and impact that would likely not exist without publicly funded arts like we have in Canada with the National Film Board. And I say this because I am chair of the single largest arts funding body in Canada, but I also say this because I know this is not a privilege found often enough here, below the medicine line. And also because the value of public arts is so often questioned. And I believe Alanis and her work provides as compelling reasoning as one could ever need. 30 years after first meeting her, I stand here privileged to call Alanis my colleague, my mentor, my fellow warrior, and most of all, my friend. I hope she knows that the work I have done was all inspired by her, and that her presence will resonate beyond 7 generations. My people, we believe that you exist on this world to do deeds that will live 7 generations into the future, and that we are here as a result of choices made 7 generations in the past. That is the purpose of life, for us to honor the people we will never meet. And Alanis has done this so well. So congratulations, Alanis, on this wonderful honor. And as always, miigwech, 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 chi miigwech, for all that you are. Thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you. You make me feel so welcome. And as if you are all my friends. Thank you so much for this great, great honor. I didn't know that in my lifetime I would be recognized like this. Wabanaki, people from where the sun rises. Our people's land was all of New England. In Canada, a very large part of it was Wabanaki country, the southern part of Quebec, New Brunswick. It is proven that in Vermont, in Maine, in Quebec, our people were there for more than 11,000 years. There were wars for 300 years with our people, and they lost the land. And at the end of it, some people, some leaders got together and tried to get all the Wabanaki people that was left to be present. And they said, we're going to have to separate on our territory, far away from one to another. Each one of you individually try to keep and remember something of your language or your tradition, your culture, because in several generations from now, the descendants will meet again, make a circle with the memories that they saved, and our people will be one again. And I think, I'm an old lady, I'm 90 years old, And I have lived long enough to see this. And I want to tell all our people that have passed how dignified and how beautiful they were and still are. And thank you so much for being here. I just didn't know that I could feel so much love. Thank you. He's handsome, eh? I wish he was here. This is such an honor. Thank you so much.